My name isn't important, but I've been a pediatric nurse at this hospital since I was barely out of nursing school. I'm in my early 20s, but I've already seen more than most people my age ever will. Broken bones, childhood fevers, kids frightened of needles. But nothing prepared me for him. The boy. He came in late one afternoon, brought in by paramedics who didn't give us much to go on. They said he'd been involved in some kind of mechanical incident. A machine, or a mascot, or something they didn't fully understand. The details were vague on purpose, I think. Someone up the chain didn't want us asking too many questions. He was small, younger than 10 maybe, pale, shaking, barely speaking. His chart listed him as an orphan. The closest thing he had to guardians had been contacted, but they didn't rush here the way you'd expect family to. In fact, they rarely came at all. So he spent most days and nights alone, with me, the nurse who watched over him. He arrived clutching a Freddy Fazbear plushie in his arms, the kind you win at a pizzeria arcade. Its fur was worn, one eye slightly loose, clearly loved. It sat beside him on the bed while we got him settled. I tried to be gentle. Kids open up when you speak softly. "Hey there, you're safe now," I told him. No response, just a weak nod as he squeezed the plush tighter. I'd seen traumatized kids before, but this was different. His eyes kept flicking to the corners of the room, as if watching something move that the rest of us couldn't see. During the daylight hours, he was timid but calm. He'd draw pictures, crayon scribbles of big animals with round heads and wide smiles. At first they looked cute like mascots, but the more he drew, the stranger they looked. Teeth too sharp, eyes too hollow, jaws too wide. I'd gently ask, "Are these friends of yours?" He'd hesitate, then whisper,
"They were."
Past tense. Sometimes he'd ask if the lights would stay on. He hated shadows in the room. If a monitor beeped too loudly, he flinched. If someone rolled a metal cart down the hallway, he jumped like he'd been shocked. I tried not to let him see the worry on my face. Evenings were the worst. Around the same time every night, just past midnight, the boy's sleep changed. He'd toss, turn, then suddenly bolt upright, gasping for air. I asked him once gently, "Sweetheart, what do you see?" He trembled, staring over my shoulder at something that wasn't there.
"They come from the dark,"
he whispered.
"And they want me to play."
A chill crept down my spine. "Who?" I asked. He shook his head violently.
"No, if I say it, they hear."
It was the first time he had spoken more than a few words to me, and it left me more unsettled than anything. One evening, as I passed the nurse's station, I overheard two doctors whispering,
"The pizzeria incident.
An animatronic malfunction."
I froze. An animatronic? From a restaurant? They lowered their voices when they saw me, but I already knew enough to connect the dots. Whatever happened to him hadn't been an accident. And someone, some company, didn't want the full truth documented. Days later, when he finally trusted me enough, we had our first real conversation. I was adjusting his blanket when he whispered,
"Miss, can I tell you something?"
"Of course," I said, sitting beside him. He glanced toward the dark corner of the room.
"They follow me here."
I swallowed. "Who follows you?" His voice was barely audible.
"The bears, the rabbit, the one in the closet."
My breath caught. "Sweetheart, there's nothing in the closet." His eyes filled with tears.
"They don't stay in the closet. They crawl out."
I wanted to comfort him, but something in his tone, certain, matter-of-fact, experienced, made my skin prickle. This wasn't imagination. This was memory. For several nights straight, he'd scream without warning, piercing cries that echoed down the ward. When I rushed in, he'd be shaking, drenched in sweat, staring at the foot of the bed. One night, he clutched my arm and gasped,
"He was right there, the big yellow one. He tried to get me."
I checked the room, of course, nothing there, but his fear was real. And every time he described one of these things, it matched the drawings he'd made. The same jagged teeth, The same torn suits, the same glowing eyes. Was he remembering what attacked him? Or dreaming it? Or both? Sometimes, right after his nightmares, the monitors would glitch, static would flicker across screens, the hallway lights would dim for a split second. One time, I swear the Freddy plush's head was turned in a different direction than where I'd left it. Coincidence, maybe, but in this room, everything felt just a little too alive. His guardians rarely visited, maybe once a week and never for very long, so it was usually me and him. We'd sit together during quiet afternoons. I'd read to him. He'd trace the stitching of his Freddy plush with trembling fingers. "Do you miss home?" I asked once. He nodded.
They never believed me.
He whispered. Believed what?
That they're real.
A few nights later, just before dawn, he startled awake again, but this time he didn't scream. He just whispered.
They're getting closer.
I checked the hallway. Everything was still. When I turned back to him, he'd pulled the sheets up to his chin, eyes fixed on the dark corner.
Miss,
He whimpered.
don't turn off the lights tonight.
My heart broke and chilled. I promised him I wouldn't. I still don't know what was haunting that poor boy. Nightmares, trauma, or something from that pizzeria following him still. All I know is this. When the sun rose each morning, he always gave me a small, exhausted smile, like he'd survived something terrible that I would never understand. He held his Freddy plush like a shield, and every day that passed, the shadows in that room felt just a little colder. Whether it was all in his mind or something truly was coming for him, I may never know. But I still leave the lights on, even when I'm off duty, just in case.